You can see this code here, which is commented out. This code is written on the global scope. So when I uncomment this code, what happens is this code will be immediately executed by the JavaScript because this HTML file is running on the browser. The moment I made a change, the browser will immediately recognize this change and change the div tag from black to red. Now we will go to the browser and see what is happening. You can see this area, which is a div tag, has been changed to red color. Now I will go to the JavaScript file and comment out the same line of code. Now I have commented it out. So now what happens is again JavaScript will immediately execute this line because we are in the global scope and the result can be seen on the browser. Here you can see now this div tag has become black color. Now you are seeing the final version of the television project that we are going to build now. Inside this remote controller, you can see there are 10 buttons from 0 to 9. Now we are going to create these 10 buttons for 10 channels. We have to create those 10 buttons 0 to 9 inside this div tag. We can create those 10 buttons manually by typing 10 button tags inside this div tag. Here you can see I have created one button for 0. I can take a copy and then paste it below and change the number to 1. Then I can paste it again and change the number from 0 to 2. This is fine. It will work. Here you can see we have created 3 buttons inside the remote controller. But imagine you have 50 buttons to create. We cannot manually type those 50 buttons inside this div tag because that is not an efficient way to write code. So this is where the for loop concept comes to the scene. Now we are going to create the for loop. To create a for loop, you have to type for, then parenthesis. Inside this parenthesis, you have to create the variable. Now I am going to create the let variable. I am going to give this variable the name of I. Every variable should have a name, right? This variable will have the name of I. Why we are giving the variable name I? Because it is a common convention. You can give anything. You can say cake, you can say hi, anything. So I am also going to use I. Then equal to 0 semicolon I less than or equal to 9, then semicolon I plus plus. Don't worry, I will explain everything that I have typed here. Then curly braces. Inside this curly braces, I am going to type console.log I. Now we can go and see what is happening in the console. Here in the console, you can see the for loop has printed the numbers 0 to 9. Since we have written this for loop on the global scope, now JavaScript will immediately execute or run this for loop. When JavaScript runs this for loop, the for loop will create a new variable I with the initial value of 0, and then for loop will run this condition and check whether the value of I is less than or equal to 9. In this case, it will check whether the number 0 is less than or equal to 9. The number 0 is less than the number 9. So this condition will become true. Whenever this condition becomes true, for loop will run whatever code that is inside this curly braces. So now for loop will print the number 0 on the console, and then for loop will run this code I++. This I++ will increase the value of variable I by 1. So now I will get a new value of number 1, and then for loop will run this condition again and check whether the new value of I, which is number 1, is less than or equal to 9. The number 1 is less than number 9. So this condition will become true again. So for loop will run the code that is inside the curly braces and print the number 1 on the console. And then for loop will run the I++ again, and this cycle continues till I gets the new value of 9. When I gets the new value of 9, for loop will run this condition and check whether the number 9 is less than or equal to 9. Yes, the number 9 is equal to 9. So this condition will become true, and for loop will print the number 9 on the console, and then again it will run the code I++. Now I will get a new value of 10, For loop will check the value of I, which is 10, is less than or equal to 9. The number 10 is not equal to or not less than the number 9. So this condition will become false. If this condition becomes false, for loop will not execute whatever code that is inside the curly braces. So it will not print the number 10 on the console. That is why you are seeing only numbers 0 to 9 on the console. Now you understood how for loop works and how it is printing all these numbers on the console. Okay, that's it. We have learned everything about the for loop. No, now we are going to do a fun task. This fun task will help you get the right mental models on how to use this for loop, when and where to use this for loop forever in your coding career. You can see a prison over here. Inside this prison, we are going to create three individual cells and we are going to lock up these three pirates inside each cell. Please go inside this folder, pirates for loop. Inside this folder, you can find this HTML file. Please open this HTML file on the browser. You can see this weird thing on the browser. This is the finished version of the task. Here you can see this white box. This white box is the prison itself. Inside this prison, we are going to create three boxes, which is going to be the cells. Here this prison box or div is very small because there is nothing inside this prison. I mean, there is no cells inside this prison. When we create a cell, this box will become bigger. I am inside the JavaScript file, which is inside this folder, pirates for loop. First of all, I am going to create a variable let. We have to give a name for this variable. I am going to name this variable jail. Inside this variable, I am going to store a div tag. So document dot get element by id parenthesis double quotes. The div tag is having the id of jail. So jail, we can check whether this div tag is stored inside this variable jail. We can see the console log coming from the line number 2 and we have successfully stored the div tag inside the variable jail. This is the div tag we have control over now. Inside this div tag, we can manually type three div tags, but we are not going to do that. We are going to use for loop to create three div tags inside this div. If I type 1 here and then 2 here and then 3 here, let's see what we are getting in the UI. This box with the background color white is the div that we just stored inside the variable jail. Inside this div, I have created three divs. One div is having the number 1, another div is having the number 2, and this is the third div. Now I am going to create a for loop. Inside this parenthesis, we have to create a variable. I am going to create a let variable, and this variable is going to have the name of I. We are going to give an initial value of 1 and then semicolon I less than or equal to 3 and then semicolon I plus plus curly braces console dot log I. Now this for loop will print three numbers on the console. Here we can see in the console the for loop is working as we expect. The console log is printed three times because the for loop ran three times. The important point is not only this console log, whatever code that we write inside the curly braces of this for loop will be executed three times. Now I am going to create a variable. This variable is going to have the name div, then equal to document dot create element parenthesis double quotes then div. So what is happening here is I am asking the JavaScript to create a div tag and store that div tag inside this variable div. Let's see what is stored inside this variable div. Here in the console, you can see the new div tag that we created through JavaScript is stored inside the variable div. And this console log is coming from the line number 5. You can create any HTML tag using document.createElement. Let's create another variable. Let p tag equal to document dot create element parenthesis double quotes. Here you can see the moment I type the double quotes, JavaScript is giving me the suggestions to create a HTML tag. Now we have created a p tag and that p tag is stored inside this variable p tag. Now we have created a div tag. Next step is we have to add the text inside the div tag. Imagine we have created a div tag here, but now there is no text inside the div tag. How are we going to insert the text inside this div tag through JavaScript? It is very easy. Div dot text content equal to hello guys. Now we are inserting this text inside the div tag that we just created. These two lines of code is equivalent to this, right? But here you can see the div tag that we just created is not visible on the UI. So where is the div tag? So let me delete these three dummy div tags that I typed earlier. So inside this div tag, we are going to insert the div tag that we just created using JavaScript. We have to type jail dot append child parenthesis div. When we write this line of code, we are adding this div tag inside this div. Make sure you are typing the variable name div. You should not type like this inside the double quotes. This will become a string. So just div, not double quotes div. Here you can see the div tag that we just created. You can also see the new div tag inside the elements box. From what you have learned till now, I want you to try to do the task on your own. Inside this folder, you can see a file task.png. If you open that image, this is how the task output should look like. First of all, we have to create three divs. If you have tried to do something like this, that is fine. It will work. Here you can see in the elements box, three divs have been created inside this div tag. So it is working. But the problem with this approach is you are manually creating three div tags. This is very similar to this approach of manually typing three div tags inside this div tag. This is not an efficient way of writing code. Instead of writing these codes three times, we can write the same code inside the for loop one time. It will be automatically multiplied into three times. Let cell equal to document dot create element parenthesis double quotes div. We can also add a class name to this div through JavaScript. Cell dot class name equal to double quotes cell. Jail dot append child parenthesis cell. Now let's go and see inside the elements box. Here you can see three divs have been created with class name of cell, and it has been added inside the div tag which is having the ID of jail. Here it is. I think I forgot to remove these three div tag that I have manually typed inside the HTML page. So let me go and delete those lines of code. See, I forgot to remove these three lines of div. Let me remove that. Now it is looking perfect. This is the HTML structure we are trying to achieve using JavaScript. Totally three div tags. Each div tag will have a image tag inside it. Let pirate image equal to document dot create element parenthesis double quotes img pirate image dot class name equal to double quotes pirate dash img. So we are creating an image tag and we are adding this class name to this image tag. The image tag also have attributes like src and alt, right? We are going to add them using JavaScript. Pirate image dot src equal to double quotes. For now, I am going to add this pirate1.png. This is a temporary image. We will change this later. Pirate image dot alt equal to double quotes pirate dash image. Now inside these div tags, we have to add the images. One image will come here, another image will come here, and another image will come here. We have already created the image tags. We have to just add them inside this div tags. Cell dot append child parenthesis and then pirate image. Here you can see everything is working fine. The image tag has been successfully added to the div with class name of cell. But we have one problem. the image is similar across all the image tags. Before fixing this image issue, I want to make sure you clearly understood how this for loop is creating the div tag and image tag and adding them to the HTML page. When the for loop runs for the first time, it will create only one div tag with the class name of cell, and then it will create only one image tag with the class name of pirate image, and then it will take this image tag and put it inside this div tag. Finally, the for loop will take this div tag and put it inside this div tag with the ID of jail. And then the for loop will run for the second time and it will create only one div tag with the class name of cell, and then it will create only one image tag with the class name of pirate image. Then again it will place this image tag inside this div tag. Finally, for loop will take this whole div tag and place it here. When the for loop is running for the third time, it is doing the same thing. If you see here, we are statically adding the image path pirate1.png. So that is why when the for loop is creating three images, all the three images will have the same image path. When the for loop is creating three image tags, all the three image tags should have a different image. That is what we are going to do now. When the for loop creates the first image tag, we want this image pirate1.png to be added to that image tag. When for loop creates the second image tag, we want this image pirate2.png to be added to that image tag. When the for loop creates the third image tag, we want to add this image pirate3.png to that image tag. How are we going to ask the for loop to have pirate1.png when it is running for the first time and pirate2.png when the for loop is running for the second time and pirate3.png when it is running for the third time? How can we do that? To fix this image issue, we have to learn a small important concept. First name equal to Mike, let second name equal to Joe, let full name equal to first name plus second name. Console.log full name. Here in the console, you can see both the strings Mike and Joe are joined together. How can we create a space between these two strings? Here I am going to type without space. Then I am going to take a copy of this code and paste it here. I am going to change the variable name. Here also I have to change. Then I will type with space. Now we are going to create a space between these two strings. You can just type double quotes, then plus, then a space here. This will create a space between the two strings. Let's go and see in the console. Here you can see there is space between these two strings. Let num equal to 30. Let car equal to BMW. Console dot log num plus car. In the console, you can see the number 30 and the string BMW has joined together. When you add a number with a string, the number and string will merge together and it will become a string. In this case, it will become double quotes 30 BMW. Let num equal to 15. Let string num equal to double quotes 15 console dot log num plus string num. Here you can see we are getting the value 1515. If I want to create a space between, I can just type double quotes, then a plus here, then space between these two double quotes. If I want to create a space between 30 and BMW, I can just come here, uncomment this, then double quotes, space between the double quotes, then again plus. This will create a space between the number and the word BMW. Here you can see what is printed on the console. Here is a task that will help you practice string concatenation. I hope you have done the task. Here is the solution. Let's see what we are getting in the console. Everything is correctly printed on the console, but there is no proper space between the words. To create space between the word John and is, I can just come here and then I can create a space here. And then there is no space between A and job. To create the space between A and job, I can just come here and create a space. And then there is no space between job and the word who. To create a space, I can just create a space in this area. To create space between in and city, I can just create a space here. The same here and the same here. Now you can see here there is proper space between the words. To fix this pirate image issue, we are going to use string concatenation. As we discussed earlier, when the for loop runs for the first time, we want the image to have pirate1.png. When the for loop runs for the second time, we want the image tag to have pirate2.png. And when it runs for the third time, the image should have pirate3.png. How can we change the numbers dynamically in this area? I am adding this console log inside the for loop. You can see for loop has printed number 1, 2 and 3 on the console. You know very well this for loop runs 3 times, and you can also access the value that is inside the variable I. Using string concatenation, we can dynamically add the value of I into this image path. You know very well inside this pirate image variable we are storing a image tag. In this console log, I am asking the JavaScript to show me what is the image path that is inside the src attribute of this image tag. If you look at the console log, when the for loop runs for the first time, I value is 1 and the image path is having pirate1.png. When the for loop runs for the second time, I value is 2 but the image path remains the same pirate1.png. When the for loop runs for the third time, I values 3 but again the image path stays the same pirate1.png. Now we are going to add the variable I value dynamically to this image path. Double quotes pirate plus I plus double quotes dot png. Again, we can look at the console log. Here you can see when the for loop runs for the first time, I value is 1. Now the image path is having pirate1.png. When the for loop runs for the second time, I values 2. The image path is pirate2.png. When the for loop runs for the third time, I values 3. Image path is pirate3.png. Here you can see inside the cells we have 3 different pirate images. If you accidentally add a space here, the image path will become something like this: pirate space 1.png or pirate space 2.png or pirate space 3.png. Why there should not be any space? Because if you look at the image file name, there is no space. It is just pirate1.png or 2.png or 3.png. There is no space between pirate and the numbers. We have to do one more thing. If you have a look at the final version, below the images, we have this text pirate1, pirate2, pirate3. We have to add this. Inside this div tag, we have already added 3 div tags. Each div tag is having a image tag inside it. Now below this image tag, we are going to add a div tag. Inside this div tag, we are going to add the text pirate1, pirate2, pirate3. Let pirate num equal to document dot create element parenthesis double quotes div pirate num dot text content double quotes pirate space then plus then I here. We have to add a class name, so pirate num dot class name equal to double quotes, then I can say pirate dash name. This class name will automatically apply the styles. Cell dot append child parenthesis pirate num. Here you can see the text have been added below the images. Next, using this for loop method, we are going to create 10 buttons inside the remote. Thank you for watching. See you on the next part.